Hey guys, in this tutorial for Blender, I'm going to show you guys how to move the object and the camera, the lights, and the objects around the scene, and how to manipulate, delete them, do stuff like that. So when you go into Blender, you're going to get something that looks like this, as you saw in the last tutorial. If you haven't seen the last tutorial, look at the link in the description. But in Blender, you can see these arrows. Now, what do those arrows do? Well, the red arrow is what would normally be the depth axis, and in normal geometry, it would be called the z-axis. In Python, it's actually called the x-axis. So remember, the x-axis is the red axis. The y-axis is actually not the height axis like it would be normally, but it is the horizontal axis. So if I click on it and drag it over, you can see actually that is that's the y-axis. And if I drag up, you can see that's actually the z-axis. So if you've taken a normal geometry class, just remember it's not actually the same thing. So it's a little confusing, but you'll get used to it. Now, how do you move around without having to right-click on it and move around like that? Well, there is a shortcut, and that shortcut is the G key. So on your keyboard, hit G, and you can move around, and then you have to hit one of the mouse buttons to place it, actually. If you hit G twice, it won't do anything. So you can't actually place with G. Now, if you want to move on the x-axis with G, just hit G and then X. Go on the x-axis, G and then Z will go on the z-axis, and G and then Y will go on the y-axis. How do you size up or manipulate the size and scale of your object? Well, if you hit the S key, you see, and then drag with your mouse, you can see you're scaling up. And if you guys didn't realize, to select it, you actually hit your right mouse key. Your right mouse button on it to select the object. Now, if you want to just scale upwards, you can hit S and then Z. You'll scale upwards. If you just want to scale back, you can do S and then X. And if you want to scale to the side, you hit S and then Y. If you want to undo these things, you actually do Control or Command on the Macintosh, Control on Windows, Control Z, and it'll undo anything you've done in Blender. Now what if you want to rotate it? Well, if you hit R, you can rotate it. It initially rotates on an axis, but if you want to change the axis that it rotates on, you can just hit R and then whichever way you'd want to go. So, for example, RX will rotate on the x-axis, RY on the y-axis, and RZ will rotate the cube on the z-axis. Now, what if you want to delete your cube? Well, actually, in Python, it's not with the delete button, it's with the X button. So hit X, and then hit delete. Now you've deleted your cube. But what do you do now? You don't have anything in the scene, so what are you going to do? Well, if you do Shift A, then you'll come up with this Add menu. Now if you click on Mesh, which is what an object is called in Blender, a mesh, and then you drag over and click on whatever you'd like. So you see you have a pretty good selection: a plane, a cube, a circle, UV sphere, icosphere, cylinder, cone, monkey, torus, grid, etc. So we're going to click on the sphere just for matter of example. And I think that covered mostly what I'd like to cover for this time. I'll see you next time, guys.